it felt so obvious where I would be in 10 years that it wasn't exciting. Whereas here at Seedstar, sincerely, I don't know where I am in 6 months.
You, who is an entrepreneur since a few years, how have you been living the experience?
It's really, really tough, but for the right reasons. So for me, it's my healthy insanity. If you don't get up in the morning, nothing, like it doesn't run. You're really the one building it on a day-to-day, which is really empowering and also obliges you really to work on your personal growth. And that will forever be grateful for this experience of learning really fundamentally who I am and who I want to be.
So you did the jump from a more corporate background to the startup world. Why did you want to do that?
Because I was content. And for me, that in many ways is unhappiness. I was one little element in the big organization, which it's true you lose purpose in it. It felt so obvious where I would be in 10 years that it wasn't exciting. Whereas here at Seedstar, sincerely, I don't know where I am in 6 months, which has all its fears with that, but it's super exciting.
It has filled what you were looking, that kind of void of no longer being content?
So I had that idealistic, naive view of entrepreneurship. Reality kicks in, and then it became interesting 2 years in, where you start working really on the values and what is fundamentally important to you. And then you have to be content with it not being extraordinary every day, and it's still about filling up Excels and doing cold calls. These are the little elements that will make our impact big.
It's not the Zuckerberg story.
Yeah.
That's a bit what the media kind of portrays of entrepreneurship. Can you give us a few examples of how you realize that actually, well, that's not going to be how it's going to happen?
No one is leaving the Zuckerberg story. There's great ambitions. Everyone wants to disrupt, wants to change the status quo, and that's very exciting and can even be a very sexy, trendy story. But no one's living in a movie. Huh? You hit reality very fast. It's for you to decide if you want to build that resilience to get there, because it's fundamentally all about resilience and passion and being comfortable with your day-to-day. The tech crunch and all these big technology media outlets love to push these great stories, but you have to remind yourself it's just a tiny percentage of entrepreneurs, and it's still 90-95% of companies fail, and that reality is not shown enough. And I respect those founders and CEOs that have publicly shared their biggest failures, more or less in real time, when they're going in bankruptcy, when they're having to close the company, when they're having to fire half of the staff, and the reasoning and the whys behind, because that is probably closer to most people's reality. When it comes down to why you're building this company, why you're an entrepreneur, everyone speaks the same language. But it's really impressive to see. You've got to imagine, like this year, we reunited 65 countries. It works. Like it's really magical. And so you suddenly see that fundamentally human beings are much more similar. And these extremely passionate individuals, even though they are thousands of kilometers apart, live the same hardships in building their company, in managing their team, in scaling the business, in trying to fundraise for investment. And that's really, really cool to see. So no, I think it's quite a universal language.